Hello, this is AJ again. Big smile. Deep breath. Move that body. Let's start the vocabulary lesson for the power of reading. Okay, one of the words we had in there was competence. Now, Dr. Krashen said people develop competence when they read. They develop the competence they need to move from the beginning level to a level where they can use the language for more difficult purposes. Competence. Competence means skill or ability. So when you read, you develop more advanced skill in English. You develop more advanced competence in English. So competence means skill or ability. And then we have the word demanding, right? He says you develop the competence for more demanding purposes. More demanding actions, more demanding challenges. Demanding just means difficult. So, in other words, you get better and better. You can do more difficult things with the language. So in the beginning, maybe you have very simple, low-level English, or maybe intermediate-level English. Probably most of you are intermediate level. If you read my website and bought these lessons, you are definitely intermediate level. So if you're intermediate level, but you want to use English for more demanding purposes, more difficult purposes, maybe now you can talk a little bit, but you can't go to a high-level business meeting and use English very well. That's a demanding purpose. It's a more difficult situation. It's a more demanding situation. So again, demanding has this idea of difficult, something that's difficult. All right, then we also had the word literacy. Literacy, that people develop literacy by reading. Surprise, surprise. That seems pretty logical. Literacy means the ability to read well. So again, literacy is just the skill, the competence, the ability to read well. It has this idea of proficiency or ability. It means you're good at something. Now, usually it means good at reading. We do sometimes use it in a more general way, where you could say, I have good computer literacy, for example. Now, we're not talking about reading. We're just saying computer ability, basic competence with a computer. We would say computer literacy. It means I understand computers. I can use computers. I'm not an expert, but, I'm good enough. But more specifically, and in this article especially, literacy just means the ability to read well. Okay, we had another little short phrase, well-read. And the sentence said, we rarely find well-read people who have serious problems with grammar. Okay, so well-read means, it just means that you have read a lot of books. A well-read person is someone who has read a lot. It means you have read a lot, you know a lot about books. Well, not about books. It means you actually have read books. You've read a lot of books. So that's what well-read means. So that sentence, we rarely find well-read people who have serious problems with grammar. It means people who read a lot almost never have grammar problems. And by reading a lot, we mean reading novels, reading books. Okay, we're not talking about textbooks. Reading textbooks won't help you. You have to read novels. Lots and lots of novels. So that's the key. But if you're well-read, if you've read a lot of novels, and, magazines and comic books are fine too, then you will rarely, almost never, have problems with grammar and spelling. The more you read, the better your grammar, the better your spelling. Okay, next is subconsciously. Subconsciously. Right? The reason you won't have problems is that you have subconsciously learned good grammar. You have subconsciously learned good spelling. You have subconsciously learned good writing. So, of course, subconsciously means intuitively. Another synonym is latently or intuitively. It means you weren't really trying to do it. It just happened. It's kind of happening at the bottom of your brain or the back of your brain. You don't realize it's happening, but it's happening. If you learn subconsciously, you learn, but you don't know you're learning. And it's a great way to learn because it's so easy. And that's what effortless English is about. That's why we call it effortless English. Without effort, easy. So we're talking about some subconscious learning. The idea is that you're learning, but you're not trying hard. And in fact, in many cases, I would say in most cases, not just English, that's the best way to learn. It's actually the fastest and most effective way to learn. All right, next we had the word conventions. Dr. Krashen said people who read a lot learn good writing conventions. They learn the conventions of writing. Conventions, in this situation, means rules or habits. The rules of writing. The normal habits of writing. The normal rules of writing. The conventions of writing. It's the rules that most of us follow for writing. So the conventions of writing, again, the rules of writing. When you read a lot of novels especially, and I mean a lot. I mean, every day you're reading. Why are you doing it every day? Because you enjoy it. You're reading really cool, funny stories or interesting information. You're not forcing yourself. It's easy because you love it. It's something you like. So anyway, when you're reading a lot like that, you learn the conventions of writing. You learn the rules of good writing. If you want to write well, read books with good writing. Makes sense, right? Because then you're constantly getting good writing, right? You're reading, you're learning. How do you make a good sentence? How do you make a good paragraph? How do you tell a good story? The more you read, you just learn that subconsciously, intuitively. You don't need to learn a bunch of horrible writing books that teach you all these rules about how to make a sentence and how to get the subject and the verb to agree and all that bullshit. Forget that. Read, and you will acquire, you will learn the conventions of writing. You will learn better and better writing just by reading a lot of books. So that's conventions. Conventions means rules. And finally, we have the word assume. Or in the past, we said assumed. And the sentence says, we have assumed that first we learn language skills and then we apply them, then we use them for reading and writing. But that's wrong. Actually, we read, and then we use the skills. We get the skills from reading, from listening. So assume means to believe. To assume means to believe or to guess. It's a belief, but there's no evidence. There's not a strong reason to believe it. It's a belief with no evidence. So to assume means to believe. It sometimes has an idea of guessing, but belief is really the best thing. To believe, to assume. All right, that's it. That's all of the vocabulary for the power of reading. Next, let's do the mini story. Big smile. See you next time. Bye-bye.